Today we're going to sit down and create a calculator with Godot. Yes, it's not a game, but you don't necessarily have to always make a game every time you want to sit down and just practice making something. So with that said, let's go ahead and open up Godot 4.3. I'll go ahead and create a new project. I'm just going to call it Calc. And I'm going to save it. Yeah, we'll save it to my documents. That's fine. We'll go ahead and create it. Let it start up. And then once I'm here, I'm going to create a new user interface. This will start off with a control, which I'll just rename to calculator. Now I'm going to save this scene right away, and we're not going to have a whole lot of resources. So I'm not going to make a lot of folders for it. I'll just save it directly inside of our file system. Now I want to think about the shape of my calculator, and right now I'm thinking maybe a 4x6, so 4 across by 6 down. And the calculator I'm going to be making this one is essentially your basic 4-function calculator. So let's go up to Project Settings, and come into the Windows section. And in here, I want to change the viewport width and height. So to start off with, I'm going to change it from 400 to 600. I'll save this off, and if we zoom in, we can see the size of our calculator now. Now the control has our old dimensions, so to make it fit, we'll come up and change the anchor points. I'll come right here to do full rect, and there we go. I've got it resized. So to start off with, I'm going to make the very first button. Let's make the number 1 button. To do that, I'll select my calculator, hit the plus button, come up here, search for a button, and then I wanted to rename it. Since it's a button, I'm going to call it BTN, and then something that tells me like what number this is, or what symbol or something. In this case, it's just the number 1, so I'll just put the number 1. After I'm done that, if I zoom in, I can't really see anything here. I can see the outline of the button, but I want to see what's in it. So I'll come over to the text property, enter a 1, and if I zoom in, we can see it, but I want it to be a bit bigger. So I'm going to come down to Theme Overrides. I'm going to open up font sizes, and inside of here, I'm going to make it 32. That actually might be too small. We can always come back here and change it later. For now, I'm going to do 64. And how big does that make my button? If I go into Layout, and then Transform, I actually want it to be about 100 by 100. Since I've set it to be 4 across, I could have 1, 2, 3, and then some sort of mathematical operation. So maybe I'll do 95 by 95. That gives me a little bit of padding. So again, I'll just save this off. I save quite frequently, and you know when I save because you'll see that little saving flash across. I have a habit of just keeping my fingers on Control S, or if you're on Mac, Command S, and just saving quite often. So I'm going to come to the calculator. I want to be able to add a script to this, and in this particular project, we're only going to have the one script. So I'll attach it to the root node, my calculator. I'll keep the default name. I'll hit Create. Now I'm not going to need any of this code that's in here already. So I'll delete it and I'll save it. I'm going to come back to the 2D view. And the way I want this to work, at least for the numbers for now, when I run this, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button, it's going to ask me what scene do I want to be my main scene. I'm going to say select the current. We're only going to have one. Now, when I click this button, I want it to output a number 1 down here. And the way we do that is I select the button from the hierarchy. I'm going to come over to the nodes, and these are all the different signals that we can send out. If you're coming from a different environment, think of these as just events. It's just a different name. So I want to capture the press signal. So when I press this, I want to do something. Now, we could come in and set up events for the 1 button, the 2 button, the 3 button, and have different events for each one. But when we think about it, all the buttons, when we press them, at least the number ones, they all do the same thing, right? They transmit some number. The only thing that changes is the value that we're sending when we press a button. So what I'm going to do is quickly copy this. I'll do 2. So I select it, Command D or Control D. I'm going to change this to button 2. So I'll change the number that's showing. And over here, 3. And take note, they're all on top of each other. I'm going to leave them there for now. But I still want to select that first one. And I want to set up a function that when any number button is clicked, it'll be called. So let's come into our script. And to create a function, we use the func keyword. And I'm going to say underscore on number pressed. And then for this calculator, I'm only going to work with integers. Let's just keep it simple. We'll say number, which is of type int. We will not return anything. And for now, all I'm going to do is print out that number to the console below us. So right down here. So I'll save this off, come back to my 2D scene, select that first button, double click the pressed, and it says, where do you want to connect this? Well, we're going to have to go into the advanced mode because what I want to do is pass a number to the function. So I'm going to come up here, select int, click add, and then what is the value that we want to pass into this function that we're calling? Well, I want to pass in the value for the number that I'm pressing. So in this case, I want to pass in a value of not negative 755. I just want to pass in a value of 1. And then if we click this button right here, connect, it's going to create this function for us. And then when we create the 2 button, it's going to be the exact same thing, except it's going to be 2, then the 3 button. We don't want that. We want to use the same function over and over. So I can hit pick. And I've only got one function in that script right now, so it shows. But if we keep the compatible methods only shown, or sorry, checked, it'll show me all the methods I have in that script that are available that match the signature. So essentially they take in an integer. And this is the one I want to use. So I can just select it, hit OK. We can see that it's selected it. We've got our argument. I'm going to hit connect. I'll save it. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for button 2. So I'll come in, double click, pressed. Say I want to pass in an int, add. The value I want to pass is 2. Pick. I want to do this function here. It's the only function we have. We can just double click it, make sure it's the right one, connect. And I'm going to do the 3rd button as well since we're here. So add. The value we want to pass is 3. Pick. There's only 1. Connect. I'll save it. I'm going to come back to the 2D view. And I'm just going to grab these buttons and just move them over just a bit. Just to spread them out some. I'm going to save it. Let's run it. And as we click these buttons, we should see the numbers come down here. So I hit 1, we get a 1. I hit a 3, we get a 3. I hit a 2, we got a 2. So we now know what button we're pressing. We just got to do something with it. But before we do that, I want to get all my buttons set up and I want to change this layout so that it actually looks something like a calculator. So I'm going to come in. Now, because I moved these, I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. I want them all on top of each other again. And the reason why I want to do that is because we have a lot of different ways that we could organize all these buttons. And the one I'm going to pick is a grid. So with calculator selected, I'm going to hit the plus button. We're going to look for a grid container. I'll hit enter and it goes to the bottom. What I want to do is select all the buttons, drag and drop them, put them down here. So they're all children of the grid container now. Now I don't want them to be all in one column. So if we select the grid container, I can come over to the inspector and I can change how many columns I want. In this case, I want to have 4. Another thing I want to do is make sure the grid container takes up the full rect. So we'll come up here, click there, and we can see it does take it up. Now we could add a margin container. Maybe we'll do it a little bit later just to add a little bit of padding around the side. For now, I'm fine with just this. Now I want my buttons to be a little bit wider. I want them to fill up a lot more space. So I'm going to go over and just select all 3. And then if I come into the anchors again, I can click on the expand horizontally. And I'll make them span across. And we still need one more. We need a plus button for this one. So I'm going to make that button, but I'm not going to make the function for it just yet. So I'll come down and let's just copy the 3 button. So Command D. And instead of being button 4, I'll call it button plus. And then I'll come over here and change the text to be the plus sign. Now I do have to come into the node and it's connected right now to the number, but we're not passing a number, we're passing a string. So I'm going to double click. Oh, sorry, I'll right click. We'll click edit, or we can just go straight here, just disconnect. We don't want it to show up anymore. So we have our first row done. Now I want to create a function very similar to what we have here for the numbers, but I want it to take in a string. We're going to use this for all of our symbols and any other button that we need that is not a number. So that means I have to come into my script. And I'm going to create another function. We'll just do it down here. And again, func, and I'll call it on, I guess we'll call it symbol pressed. And I guess we'll just call it symbol. It's going to be of type string. Take note, the capital S. You're not going to return anything. And I'll do the same thing. Print symbol. I'm going to save this off. So two functions, almost the exact same, except one takes in an int, one takes in a string. We'll come back in and let's hook up the plus. So again, we want to do the plus signal. Instead of passing in an int, I'm passing in a string. I'll add, and then the symbol I want to pass in. Since it's the plus button, I'm just going to pass in the plus sign. I'll come down to connect. We can see that the one it has pre-selected for us is the one that takes in a string. Now that we have two functions in there, if we turn off the compatible methods only, we can see there's two of them that we could pick, but we only want the one that'll takes in exactly the parameters that we're passing. In this case, that's this one here. So we can double click, make sure it's the on symbol pressed, hit connect, save. Let's go test it. So again, 1, 2, 3, plus. All right. So let's make the next row buttons. I'm going to come back in the 2D view. I'm going to grab one all the way to button plus, and then Command D on Windows, or you can hit Control D on a Mac. Now notice it went to 4, 5, 6 plus 2. I'm going to take this plus 2, make it a minus. And then what I want to do, since I want them to be, if I highlight them all, this one here, I want them to be on top. I can take them, and I'm just going to drag them up here and make sure that they're not childless to anything but our grid container. And we can tell just by looking at how these lines work. So I need to change the actual, what the output is. So I'll select the first one, come back in, we'll do a 4, grab the next one, do a 5, grab the next one, do a 6, and then for the minus, we're going to pass in a negative. Now, because we already had the functions hooked up, if we come over to signals, they're already hooked up exactly the way with the other ones. So I'll save this. Again, we can run it. And not only do 1, 2, 3, and plus work, as you can see down here, 4, 5, oops, 6, and minus. I forgot. I changed what was up here. I didn't change the signals. So we have to come in, select one, go into the signal. We'll have to edit it and change what the argument value is. So in this case, I'm doing the number 4. Then I can just hit connect. And again, if we run it, when we hit 4, now we get 4. And if we hit 1, we get 1. So we have to do 5, 6, and negative next. So I'll come in. I like the 2D view for this. We'll grab it, edit it, change the value being passed into 5. I'll go ahead and hit connect. I'm going to do them all right here. I don't like the way it switches us. That's fine. Right click, edit, 6, connect, and the minus, edit. Argument will be changed to a negative sign. And again, still using the same one, connect, save, run. All 8 of our buttons should work now. 1, 2, 3, 4, or plus 4, 5, 6, and then negative. So pause the video here. Go try 7, 8, 9, and multiplication. I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. But let's see if you can do it without my help. Okay, I'm going to come in. I'm going to grab, it really doesn't matter what row of buttons, but I'll just do 4 to minus, duplicate them, drag them on top, and I'm going to 7, 8, 9, except this one's going to be multiplication. I'll just do mul. And then we have to come in, 7, 8, and I don't want that there. I hit enter. We don't want that. 9, multiplication, and then the signals. So right click, edit. I'm going to pass in the asterisk, which is Shift 8, the little star. And then for 9, edit. 9, connect. 8. Now, once we get a little bit further into our programming journey, we could have done this with a loop. And it's less manual clicking, but a little bit more lines of code. Okay, we should have that top row set up right here. Again, I like to save, test, and let's see, 7, 8, 9, star. All right. Let's do this bottom row. So for this bottom row, I want to keep the grid of just four buttons. So I'll take button 1 through button plus, duplicate it. And then for the first one, I'll do 0. Actually, we can do the plus minus key. Let's do the plus minus key. Then we'll do 0, decimal, and equals. So for button 10, which is this first one, plus divided by minus. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll rename it while we're here as well. So I'm just going to call it PM, capital P, capital M. And I'm going to do the signal at the same time. Now we'll notice here, if I edit it, the signal it's looking for is on number press because we're passing in an integer and we had an argument of 1. We're no longer doing that. We're going to be passing in, well, something that's not a number. So we're going to pass in a string. So in this case, I'm going to select it, hit remove. This gets rid of the argument we passed in before. Use the drop down, grab our string, hit add, and now I need to pass in something to represent the plus minus key. And I'm just going to pass in lowercase pm. And then we'll come to pick. And notice, originally it was on number pressed. We're going to go for on symbol press now. And again, we hit OK, connect. And just to show that that reconnection that we did does work, we'll go ahead and we'll hit it. And I get an error. Let's see what that error is first. And it looks like it has trouble calling that signal. So let's just double check on it. We'll go ahead, we'll edit it. I'm sending an argument P1 to on number press. Did I not connect it right? It does not look like it. I'll hit pick, double click symbol pressed, hit connect, hit save. We can see it's on signal pressed. This should work. Then I'll hit the plus minus and I get the PM that I'm sending in. I don't think I saved it last time when I was reconnecting it, but it works now. So let's go on to the next one. Again, I like to look at the 2D view while I do this. This is going to be my 0 key. So it's still a number. So let's go ahead and rename this. This is my 0 key. I can come over. Let's do here first. We'll put a 0. Come into the node. We don't have to change it, but we do have to edit the value being passed in. In this case, it's 0. And now that I'm thinking of it, we'll go ahead, we'll connect it because it doesn't need to be reconnected to anything new. But now that I'm thinking of it, I probably should have put my 0 here, then like plus minus and then a decimal. That's fine. We can always move them around later. But let's just keep moving on. This is the decimal. So instead of button 13, we'll say button DEC for decimal. We'll change the inspector so it shows a period. We'll come up to node. And on this one, we are going to have to change because it's not passing a number anymore. So I'm going to hit remove. I'm going to be adding a string. The string I want to pass is just a decimal. I want to pick. I'm going to pick the symbol pressed. Double check, make sure that's it. Hit connect. Come back in. One more to do. So we'll go, select it. Let's rename it. This is equals. Let's call it BNT equal. I'm going to come in, change the symbol, go back to the node, right click, edit. Now it's on symbol press. That's great. That's what we want to send. And instead of setting a plus, we'll send an equals. I'll hit connect, save, test. So PM 0 decimal equals. Great. We got that row. All we need is that one top row now. And now I'm thinking about it. I should have made it a 4x5. Actually, never mind. We need the one for the display at the top. So I'm going to stop there. We'll come back into the 2D view. And I want that top row because we need to get the division up there. And let's also throw in like a delete key, which will delete the last number we entered. We'll do clear entry, which will clear the whole screen for us. And then let's also add an all clear, which will clear what's currently stored in memory, as well as our display up here. And of course, the division. So up the top here, they're all symbols. So I like to come up to the top, think about where it's going to be, duplicate, take it, drag it all the way back up. Again, making sure that the parents is the grid container. And then I'm going to rename all of these first. So the first one, I'm just going to say del for delete. It's a little wide, that's fine. And then rename it. So button, del. The next one we're going to be making, let's do clear entry. And I like to have a capital right there. I'll come over here. We'll just do lowercase ce. The next one, AC for all clear. And again, I'll come over here, AC. And let's do this fourth one, which should just be division, which I'll just do as div. And then I'll come over here and use the symbol for division. All right, let's hook these signals up. So we'll come to the first one. And if we think about it, when we come to this signal, which type do we need to hook up to? Are we hooking up to a number or a string? Well, by default, we're hooking up to a number because the one we copied was from 7. We know that's wrong, so we've got to hit remove. And we've already got string pre-selected because the last one we did was string. So we'll just add it. Then I have to pass something in for the delete key. I'm just going to pass in del. Then, of course, we have to make sure we come in, pick the on signal or on symbol pressed, connect, and then go through all of them. So again, right click, edit, delete because it's looking for the number. We do not want to pass in a number. We want to pass in a string. This is for clear entry. So I'll just do CE, pick, double pick. There we go. AC is next. Right click, edit. Again, don't need that one. AC. Come down here, double click, connect. And we got one more left, the division. And edit. Again, oh, this one's already a symbol, so all we have to do is change what it is. Make sure, connect. Let's save. Let's test that top row out just to make sure we're getting what we expect. So delete, got it. Clear entry, all clear, division, great. So the next thing I want to add is the little display up here. So when you start pressing in the buttons, it displays what numbers that we've pressed. And to do that, I'm going to come all the way up to the calculator, the very root node. I'm going to hit plus, and we're going to look for a label. I'm just going to go ahead, double click that. It's at the bottom here. I don't want that. I'm going to move it all the way up to the top, right underneath calculator. And I'm going to call it LBL display. Now I want to have the same font size that I have down here. And I already forget what that is. So I can just select any of the buttons, come down, take a look at theme override, font size. We did 64. So I'm going to do the same thing for display. For now, I'm just going to put 3/8. And I'll come down to theme overrides. Let's go to font size. And I believe it was 64. There we go. Now it's in behind. And I want it on top. So this whole grid display here is one, think of it as one big block. Kind of like a Hershey block of chocolate. You know, we have all the squares and you break them apart. I want to keep them together like that. But I want my display to be on top of here, and I want it to take up the full width. Now our grid container, if we take a look, it's set to always take whatever we have and split it into 4. If I would have put it at the top of the grid container, it would take up the first spot, but we don't really have a way to make it stretch all the way across. So I'm going to keep it above the grid container. I'm going to select the calculator, hit plus, and I'm going to look for a VBox container. And I'll take that, and I want it all the way up here as the first child of calculator. Now, once I have that done, we can see it here. I want to make this full rect. I'm going to take my display, drag and drop that in as a child of the VBox container, and we can see that it filled up the whole thing for me. Then I'm going to take the grid container and make that a child of the VBox container. And now we can see that we have our numbers at the top here, followed by all of our buttons down below. Now, let's set up the display for our numbers here. So to set those numbers up, I'm going to select the LBL display, and I'm going to come all the way up here to the horizontal alignment, and I'm going to set that to right. And now we have our calculator set up as far as the looks and the signals that we need to send. In the next video, let's go ahead and write the code to get all these buttons working. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Don't forget to save.